It's time for another retirement deep dive where I invite you inside of the tent with me. And together we go through a hypothetical case that may or may not be close to your situation. But importantly, I use a free online tool that you can follow along with. It's not as robust as what I use professionally, but it's strong enough to give you a high-level idea as to whether you're close and you're getting into the ballpark. And importantly, it has a feature called a Monte Carlo simulation, which is kind of the bare minimums that I think you need to do when you're doing retirement analysis. So in this case, we've got a married couple. They're 55 years old. They've got $750,000, $750,000. And their question is, can I retire now? Now, regular viewers of my channel know that I think people should be thinking about retiring early. So I love this question. So let's jump in. First off, you can follow along at the website for this free online tool, which is called honestmath.com. And if you go there, the website looks like this. Once you register, then you can follow along, and you can see here, instead of so under the personal information, instead of the name, I'm just putting the scenario in here. $750,000. Both people are 55 years old. They're married, and the question is, can we retire now, or would it be better if we wait? And I put that in air quotes because it's subjective, but we're going to go through this together. So 55 years old, that would say that they were born in 1969. Got a life expectancy of 90, which is the default. And then importantly, I've got Social Security at a little under $3,800 a month. Now, this is an important feature. You can see I've also got them starting at their full retirement age, which for people born in 1969 will be 67 years old is when they get 100% of their Social Security benefit. If they were to start taking it sooner, they would get less. And if they waited, they would get more. But 67 is full retirement age. Now, how did I decide on a weird number like $3,768? Well, I went to the Social Security's website and I looked up and I said, what's the average Social Security amount that an American gets? And it changes every month, but in January of 2024, the amount was just a tad over $1,900. And then I also went to the Social Security website, which is ssa.gov. I also went to ssa.gov and saw what the average check was, Social Security check was, by age. Now, people that retire earlier get less money. People that wait get more money because people that retire earlier, the theory is they're going to get more checks, right? So average retired worker at 62 gets a little under $1,300 a month. At 67, they get $1,884. And then at 70, they get $2,038. So my number is just that 67, the $1,884 times 2. Married couple, I'm assuming both are working. So that's where that comes from. Okay, let's go back into honestmath.com. We put in, again, look at the Social Security, $3,768 a month. But importantly, they're not going to start taking Social Security until they're 67. So they're 55 now. So for the next 12 years, they're going to have to fund all of their retirement expenses from that money that they saved up. And they're in a very good situation. They have about double of what the median household has at their age. So $750,000, again, is about double of what the median American household has at that age. The next tab that I go to in honestmath.com is the portfolio. I put in their portfolio value of $750,000. I leave everything else at the default. Importantly, the asset allocation is 60% stocks, 40% bonds. Yours might be different. This is a really important feature, though, because this is going to determine 80% of their investment results is going to be dictated by their asset allocation. So you want to give some serious thought to it. In fact, I think it's worth hiring a professional to help you with your asset allocation. And as you get closer, you don't want to use a free online tool to say, okay, I'm going to tell my boss after 20 years of working here, 15 years, 25 years, whatever it is, I'm retiring. You don't want to have that conversation unless you've got as much clarity as you can. And I think it's worth hiring a professional. A fee-only financial advisor is somebody that's a fiduciary to you 100% of the time. I should say nothing I'm sharing today is financial advice. I just want to put this on your radar screen so you can be thinking about this, and hopefully you can make better decisions about your situation. It's the whole purpose of my channel. Okay, so under expenses, I'm just taking a crack at this. I'm saying it's going to be $4,000 a month, and it's fair for you to say, hey, Azul, that's not much money. It's not, right? The median household expenses is $55,000, $57,000. I'm sorry, yeah, $55,000 or $57,000 a year. So this is lower than the median household expenses, right? But they want to retire early. So let's just see what this looks like. So $4,000 a month. Then we look at settings, and the settings really talk about the investment returns. These again are the defaults for honest math. I'm not saying that this is what I would use professionally, but it's in the ballpark of reasonable numbers. Importantly, I also clicked fat tails. In fat tails, if you remember back to high school or college, the bell curves, right? The bell curves, they start off and then they flatten out. And they go pretty low to the x-axis when they flatten out. And that would be thin tails, is what a Gaussian or a bell curve has. But the stock market tends to have fat tails. Those outliers are not as unusual in the stock market. Very seldom does the stock market do 8% a year. It either does well or it does poorly, very seldom right around that middle. So I click fat tails. That's up to you whether you include it. There's also black swan events, which are unusual situations like the great financial crisis, like the pandemic, dot-com bubble bust, right? So these unusual situations have a tendency of popping up about every decade or so. So they're not as unusual as our psychology would lead us to believe that they should be. But I didn't check that because I can always crater a plan. It's easy for me to make a plan that doesn't work. But I want to come up with a scenario that might work, and then you at home can play with this on your own. And even with this, with $750,000, retiring at 55 it's not inexpensive to be able to do that. And you can see here at $4,000 a month, believe it or not, it doesn't look that great. Let me tell you what we're looking at here. So I mentioned earlier the Monte Carlo simulation. That's just a way for us to simulate multiple lives. You know, one of the advantages that a financial advisor has is they've helped hundreds of people, guided them into retirement. They've seen things, they know things that most of us are living our one life, and so we don't know what we don't know. And the Monte Carlo simulation is a way to incorporate some of that and to say, well, some people are going to be lucky and get really strong stock market returns. Some people are going to be unlucky. Everything's the same. It's just the order in which they receive returns. You might get bad returns the last 10 years of your life, which is a much better situation than getting negative and bad returns the first 10 years of your retirement. And so the Monte Carlo simulation is just a statistical way to try to simulate that and then show the results. So here you can see up above it says they ran 10,000 simulations, and this is what they did. They just randomized each year's stock market returns based on real past stock market returns. So and they had 10,000. And the top of this light blue, those are the lucky folks. Those are people that got good stock results early on. You can see though, although you know it kind of curves up and then comes down to a trough and then goes back up again. So even the lucky people had some negative results in there. And the dark blue line is the median. So in this case, honestmath.com ran 10,000 simulations. And so this is the 5,000s. It's not the best and it's not the worst. It's right in the middle. And then the lower end of the curve, those are the least lucky, the unfortunate 20%, the 20% worse. So 2,000 and below. So if they ran 10,000 simulations, number 1 through 2,000 is the top of the curve. Those are the good cases. The median is that 5,000 case. And then case 8,000 through 10,000, the worst, that's the bottom end of that pale blue. So you can see the unlucky people are running out of money about 72. The median, half of the people are running out of money about 83. And the lucky people are dying, with over $1 million. So it just shows that there are a lot of factors out of your control. There's a ton of factors out of our control. Much more important than the financial results is our health. What's our health going to look like as we get older? So anyways, most people would not be comfortable with this. There are some people that say, wow, look at this. The top 20% die with over $1 million. I'm going for that. And, that's a personal decision. But let's go back and let's tweak some things. So what if instead of retiring at 55, now you can see the first name, I've changed to retiring at 60. So they retire at 60, but they only make $50,000 a year during that period of time. So maybe they both take part-time jobs, or just one partner is working, the other one's not. So I'll let you and your partner decide which one gets to retire and which one has to work for 5 more years. Or you both take part-time jobs. But that's what I changed here. Social Security is still kicking in. And then at the same level, because they're waiting until 65 to take their Social Security. And then the portfolio, that stays the same, $750,000. The asset allocation stays the same. Now, I'm showing this again because I want to caution you. Some people would say, well, let's take more risk in our portfolio. And for some people, that might be the right answer, but for most people, it's not. And the reason it's not is the way that we feel about risk. Once all the money we have in the world is the nest egg that we've spent our life building up, the way we feel about risk is going to increase. The pain of loss is going to increase. And not just marginally. It's going to increase dramatically. And instead of worrying about your stock portfolio when the market is down, instead of worrying, for most people, it's going to cause anxiety. And it's going to cause an acute level of worrying. So it's not just margin, it's not 20% more pain. It might be 5 times more pain. It might be 10 times. So I caution you not to be tempted to increase your asset allocation. As I said, sometimes it is okay. But that's something for you to work. This is a really important decision, and you'd want to work with a professional to find the answer that's right for you. Like I said, this is not financial advice here. Okay, so what we did, again, was instead of retiring at 55, we have them working to 60, but instead of making their current salaries, between the two of them, they're making $50,000 a year. Okay, so how does this look? This looks really good. Even in the worst case, they never run out of money. And why is that? Because I left the expenses still at $4,000 a month, and their Social Security is almost $3,700 a month. So they really only have 5 years that they have to fund their expenses, right? So this plan looks great. Nobody runs out of money, right? But they're also not spending much money. So let's go back to expenses and see what happens if we say, let's spend 25% more. Instead of $4,000 a month, let's spend $5,000 a month. Again, making $50,000 a year, whether that's one person working or both partners with part-time jobs. And here you can see this looks pretty good. Not as good as the other one, the previous one, where they were only spending $4,000 a month. But, a lot of people would say this is okay. The median case, people pass away with $1 million. The lucky people pass away with over $3.5 million. And the unlucky people are running out of money at 84. Now, let me talk about that, because obviously that's not a good situation if you might live to 90. If you died at 75, it doesn't matter, right? It's just how much money was left behind. But so why would most people be okay with this case where the unlucky people are running out of money at 84? The reason they'd be okay is because we don't just fly this plane into the ground. If we find that we're unlucky, right, and we're getting the negative returns early in retirement, and it happens, there's nothing you can do to prevent that from happening. The stock market, you can mitigate what the impact is on your portfolio by asset allocation, what percent of your portfolio is in stocks, what percent's in bonds. But we can't control the stock market, we cannot control inflation, etc. The reason most people would be okay with this is, they're retiring when they're 60. And if they do get unlucky in the first 10 years, they get bad returns, they're still going to be under 70. And they can make some corrections. Maybe sometime along the way, they both go back to work and they tweak things. But most people don't want to plan for, and I'm not saying this in a negative way, I don't blame them. I don't want to plan for the absolute worst case scenario. I think we're smart to know what they are. I think we're smart to think about, if we were to end up on that worst case scenario, and it's not like you did anything wrong, but if you're unfortunate and you find yourself in that situation, okay, what tweaks are you going to do? And it sucks, right? You wish you were the lucky ones, but we can't always be the lucky ones. Candidly, if you have a happy family, if you have good health, if you're generally in a good mental mood, you're already the lucky one, right? And maybe you win the lottery with the stock market as well, and maybe you don't, right? But we just adjust. So that's why, even though this isn't perfect, it's probably good enough for over half of the people out there, maybe even the majority of the people out there. So I hope you found this helpful. If you did, if you like information like this so that you can make good, informed decisions on your situation, then I know you're going to enjoy watching this video up here, which is the average income in retirement for Americans. So it's the average American retirement income. So I know you'll enjoy that one if you enjoyed this one. I'll see you in there. Thanks for watching this video. Bye-bye.